It was brilliant. So Mark and I are going to hold the space now for a little bit. Laura and Leap Team and everybody else that's helping behind the scenes are putting some slides together. Mark, what have you thought of the last little bit?
I loved it. I really loved it, and I particularly loved that last presentation. I've got a question actually as a hangover question from that last session that someone asked before, just as we ended it. But I was particularly drawn by the reference to the Jungian archetypes, stuff that I'm working on at the moment, and the Jungian archetypes are the key to understanding lots of things. And we've not just got the sage, which is a really powerful position that we need to sit in. If you look at the environmental movement, you've got the lover, which is about an addict. It's not about too much sex. It's about too much everything. That's one of the driving things. Then you've got the magician, which is about controlling and actually blaming others rather than looking inward. Then we've got the explorer, which is all about curiosity and trying to find new solutions. And we also have the hero, or I would say the hero complex. Like, look at me, I'm so good, I'm going to save everything. So you've got this really complex bundle of archetypes. And the thing is, what we have to say is they're all welcome. Every single one of those is welcome. So I found that reference really, really positive, actually. I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed the conversation around manifesto. So the group that I was in Laura's group earlier, and there was a big debate about what we call it, which I think is interesting. And I guess the key debate was, do we need one? And the resounding feeling was yes, we do need one. People want to feel like they're part of something bigger than them, and to sign up and say, yeah, I'm in as well. I'm Spartacus, right? People want that feeling. So whether we call it a manifesto or charter or whatever it might be, there's a massive yes from that, Matt.
Which is brilliant. And I think we were talking around the fact of whatever the name is, we gave it a name because a name just helps bring something into life, but things can change in that space. But we wanted to have also outcome from today. So we had brilliant talks that inspire, as we do when we go to these events and festivals and stuff, and celebrate what we do. But we wanted a physical output that kind of was a lasting legacy of Goodfest as well. And especially in these times where we've had 2 years where we haven't been together. And the other side of things is that kind of like, it's based on a values proposition. Is, I was asked who's going to check that these things are done, but you'd hope, I know like John said, there's so many, fucking manifestos and declarations out there. How many of each one, I think Architects Declare, which is a brilliant one, has got like 1,700 architects involved, but how many are truly taking action, who have just signed because it's the thing to do. But so we're, hoping, from this, it's really about our values and our truth being told, and us taking action upon that and going, yes, I might not be able to do all these pledges or actions, but I can go clean, and I can have a conversation, and I can challenge the brief. And later on, we're going to share resources as well.
I like that. And one of the things that popped into my mind, a few years ago, we ran a kind of like startup exercise at the Do Lectures, which was really positive. And one of the ideas that came out of it, and it didn't really go anywhere, was something called tentoring. So the whole idea of doing 10-minute mentoring. So you would have a number of people connected over, I don't know, an app. And if somebody had an idea or they need some advice on like a startup, this was all based on non-sustainability stuff. They would put it out, and it's a bit like that call service for the visually impaired that you can help people with, which is amazing actually. And then the first person to answer it, you get 10 minutes of their time, but no longer. 10 minutes, the call cuts off. And I thought, could we do something around sustainability and mentoring, sustainability and tentoring, where there's a number of kind of, I guess, experts in their field, and that might be around consumption, or it might actually be around kind of like practical campaigning rather than anything scientific. So that popped in my mind as a way of creating community. And then obviously you've got the normal places to go, which I utterly hate, but like Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups. But the noise from those can be utterly deafening and hard to see through. But there's definitely a desire to to connect in a way that sits outside of this. We've both got bikes in the back of our shops. Have we got stone roses and sourdough and some spoon carving? Have we got all the middle class male vices going on in the background there?
Yeah, totally. I've got, vida, which is life from the Holstein Manifesto in Spanish, and I can't even read Spanish, but my daughter wanted a Spanish version of the Holstein Manifesto. So
brilliant.
I was just going to chuck in because we've had some really interesting stuff coming through from the breakout facilities, and all that's gone into a Google Docs, which we're just processing. But I thought I'd just flip in some ideas about impact, because lots of people are saying, why do we need to measure it? And I think the idea of keeping each other accountable and having a way of communicating, the thinking, the journey, the successes, the failures, what we've learned, is more important than actually, potentially for some people, more important than actually measuring it. I guess the measuring is kind of to prove it to outside forces, whether that's, funders or policymakers or whatever. But actually, from our own point of view, our own change making, it's more about communicating it and feeling a sense of community as we do it. And feeling that our tiny actions are adding up to something.
Yeah, definitely, Laura. But I think also there's a thing like, in the B Corp community, with the framework, it's measuring what matters. So it's kind of what matters to us and what we're involved in and knowing. And, Carlos and a few others said, what is enough for us as well in the roles we do. But without these measuring and without goal setting, then we've got, nothing to aim for. And we can kind of let the universe kind of just deliver things to our shores that we act upon, referencing the film Castaway with Tom Hanks in there, and how he looks at things differently because of the situation he's in. But I think for me, in my early years of running Leap as a creative practice, we knew the way we wanted to do and the thing we wanted to do, environmental design, but it was only when we started to truly measure both the impacts and the outputs of that, that we actually really got to see where we could take our organization with our team.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't conclusive, but I just thought I'd chuck that in there. It's because I think, we at Goodfest are a small team. A lot of people here are individual freelancers. They don't have a lot of time. Life draws you inwards. You spend a lot of time focusing on what's in front of you, and the ability to kind of go out and do the bigger stuff is hard, right? Like, it's hard for all of us to do, even if we're sort of doing this professionally. So I just wanted to raise the idea that whatever we decide to do or create can't be burdensome. Too burdensome, a little bit burdensome. It needs to be a bit hard, but not too hard, I guess.
It needs to push and demand a little bit, but you're absolutely right. Or what it can't do is off-put. And I really welcome your addition. That's a really smart idea.
Thanks.
So
I'm waiting for some other stuff, but keep chatting about the next steps, because I know we want to try and wrap up on time. So we've got about 5 minutes.
I think
we'll talk about the process, Matt. What happens from here?
Well, we've got a few changes, and because of the brilliance of our hive mind today, we are overwhelmed from our facilitators on putting the input into the Google Live document. So we've got this big document, which was going to have the start of the principles, which could be a whole series of things from clean energy to challenge to declare a climate emergency. I've not looked through it. I don't know what's coming out at this point. If we were going to put that live, the website's already there. If somebody could share the Sustainable Creative Manifesto website. So it's pre-built, but we're now not gonna, even though we've been talking about transparency and holding to account, because there is so much information coming in and so many good points and stuff, it's gonna take a little while for us to digest it now. So we'll be going live later in this week. I was talking about putting a link to the Google Drive live now, but that will mean everybody will be putting even more comments in. So to digest where we are. And if you keep a lookout for Sustainable Creative Manifesto, you will see what you've all helped create today. And part of this is you're all founders of this, and we will be using those that have showed up. If you want, you must not to, but there will be a page with your names on there as founding members. Now, this doesn't mean you've signed the pledges. This would just be at the start to say that you were there in helping us create. You are part of that community, and you are a founder member, and share it with your community if you wish to, or with your businesses, with your clients. Later on, we'll come up with some clever, sustainable, low carbon way of showing who has done the pledges, or the actions or the principles, and who's still working on it. I don't know what your thoughts are, Mark, on this, because I said this is live co-creation, and you're an expert in this space as well. So,
well, I mean, I think there are probably three things to consider in this. Number one is whatever platform we're going to put it on. I don't want to think about that yet. That's over there. No, number two, let's pull everyone's ideas in and sift those and categorize those in a way, and then let's pick those and grow and test those. We can test those really, really quickly. That's what we do. And then number three, what do people want? What does the I'm gonna use the word consumer again. I bloody hate that word. But what does the consumer want? What does the user want from this? What does a good job look like for them? Because we're all hands up for good stuff, but will we actually use it? So, and are we using it for us as individuals, or is this for us as businesses? And there's a blurring there. And how do we deal with that blurring? So I'd look at this as like a classic product development process. What problem are we solving? Who are we solving it for? And what's the easiest way? Not the easiest way, but the thing's going to get used the most.
Yeah. And it has, everything, just because I can't share now, but I have been just trying to sort of synthesize what's come through from the breakouts. And I think it's falling into sort of 4 key categories. So some of it's about our own behavior, things like, challenging, don't lecture, show or engage, be kind to yourself and others, all that sort of thing. There's quite a few really practical things. So, about asking questions of your suppliers, calling out greenwashing and misinformation when you see it, reducing impact in really basic, tangible ways, such as green energy, using what exists rather than buying new, that sort of thing. We've got quite a few things around comms and how people communicate, and your sort of role and your opportunity to have a voice. To lots of people here are storytellers, they're communicators, they make images that make people think. So how can we use that? And then the final one is about impact. I love this sort of nature is your top stakeholder. People saying education is key. We need to sort of start young and don't never stop learning. And this idea that it's a long-term investment. We need to organize this a bit better so we can kind of create it into a set of principles or guidelines or whatever word we're going to use. But I think those sort of 4 areas about behavior, practical stuff, comms, and then impact really sort of will help to shape it. And any thoughts that you've got, we would love to see it on social media. Just use the hashtags. Keep the conversation going. And I hope from those last breakout sessions that you've kind of found somebody to continue talking to, even if it's just on a one-to-one level while we organize something bigger, because talking to each other and keeping each other accountable will also be really helpful.
And thanks, Laura. And this is just a start, everybody. So, like anything, every day is a launchpad day. We wake up, it's a new day, it's a new sunrise and things like that. And I think as long as we are doing something and making those days as meaningful as possible, and that's again, Carlos has said this a lot from the Happy Startup, is kind of like what is enough, for you as well. And I think we need to talk, us as co-founders of Goodfest and the combined people that are involved to help us get here, because we couldn't do it without so many other organizations and individuals who definitely, who you are, and thank you. But there's been talk in the chat, we'd like to continue this, do we do like a monthly check-in where, Laura or me or Ben or others are just here once a month, depending on time and things, and people just come and chat and things. We will be looking at next year's Goodfest as well, and hopefully that's a physical event, maybe physical and streamed online for those from around the world, because I know we've got people coming in from Canada and all sorts of places today and things. So, thank you for sharing time with us, and thank you again to all our speakers that have joined us today, and all their different voices and different ways doing it. And John said to me, a couple of days ago when we were talking about manifesto, should I take my slide out? And I was like, no way. This is a perfect example of challenging. We've got a way. If you look at us as the client, and we've been challenged, and what will it be? And then there's the opportunity of what the name of this might be as well. Mark, didn't you have a?
You can have the last word, Mark.
Well, there's a couple of questions in the box, which I'm going to come. Well, one in particular, John Pritchard asks, just because he's a brand, does that mean he can't sign the manifesto? No, John, you can. I'd be delighted if you sign the manifesto. You're half of the challenge, right? So we'd love that. And number 2, I want to finish off with a German word. It's a word, the word's Einstellung, and it means to not let the successes of the past get in the way of the future. And I really like this word, because when we're trying to do something new, something groundbreaking, it's really easy to think about what worked last time and try and do that. And I'm a massive fan of thinking about actually where we are, we got to with broken thinking. So let's try something new. So this might be something completely fresh. We've not even thought about it before. The technology that we deliver this might be sound rather than anything else. I don't know what it is, but I'm really open to playing these games. And I can't think of a better place for this kind of thing to come from than Cornwall.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, guys. Have a very, very good day, and really, really appreciate you spending time with us and contributing to this.
Yeah, thanks for going the distance with us. Have a good day all.